I lived with an unseen intruder for 15 years. I called him David. He wreaked havoc in my personal life. It was quite a process to even realise he was there. But once I did, you would have thought that I would have booted him out. That's what we're taught, right? To identify and then eradicate the bad guy. Well, I learned something a little different. You see, the tricky thing about David is he was unseen. He lived within. He was a part of my psyche that had assumed more than his fair share of power. David was my own internal, controlling, supercritical tyrant. David had crept into my marital bed and slept soundly between my husband and I, interrupting my attempts to tangle my legs around my husband's legs, obstructing my desire to fall into him completely. David's phantom weight created a dip in the middle of the bed so that we both had to grip at our opposite edges lest we fall into the ravine. We were panicked, we were angry, we thought we were angry with each other, but we were in fact angry with David. I didn't know that it was David that stood between me and everything that I was seeking in my relationship. Openness, surrender, trust. Slowly but steadily he took hold and I just became more resentful, perpetually busy and tired, so fatigued from years of gripping at the reins for control. I always got the throwaway labels. You're quite a control freak. You'd make a great wedding planner. You're a bit of a dragon lady. And I accepted them graciously as, well, that's just who I am. It wasn't until I realised I was feeling disconnected and inauthentic in my relationship that I realised I needed to dig a little deeper. I got my first startling glimpse of the impact that David was having during a tantric relationship course. The teacher was explaining the need for polarity in a passionate relationship, and she clocked my dazed nodding as she explained that polarity was where opposite energies create a magnetic draw. She pulled my husband and I aside at the end of the class and she suggested that maybe we needed to do a 3-day challenge. 3 days in which I would hand over all of the decision-making processes over to him. Every single decision for 3 days. I could hear myself laughing nervously as I explained to her that that's not going to work for us. We're really quite busy people, and he just doesn't know how I know. I know how we do the thing. He doesn't know how I know how. And then I turned and looked at my partner and was slapped into reality by his bewildered and bemused expression. This man, this guy that I'd handpicked to be my life partner and the father of my children, and I'm freaking out about handing over the reins to our family for 3 days. I mean, what did I think was going to happen? A broken limb? Late to an appointment? Not enough salt in the pasta sauce? What was I saying to this man? What was I saying every time I would undo his plans and then remake them with 7 minutes shaved off our arrival time? What was I saying when I would wave frantically in his peripheral vision to interrupt his phone calls to remind him to say that thing that he was generally about to say anyway? What was I saying when I'd come home from being out and he'd have been home with the kids all day and I'd walk in and say something stupid like, "Have you fed the kids today?" I was screaming, you can't be trusted. You can't be trusted with us. I am very important. I'm central to this whole thing working. You can't be trusted with us. There in that class, in the hot panic of the mere idea of handing over the reins, I got a glimpse of the hole that David had. So, back to that 3-day challenge. I managed 6 months of avoidance and procrastination before finally agreeing to do 1 day in very neutral territory while on holiday in Bali. I mean, what did I have to lose, right? He's going to order the wrong kind of smoothie? I tell you what, as a measure of good faith, I'll even let him choose what I'm going to wear. And I promise, I pledge not to get into one discussion or make one suggestion about the day's logistics. The day went really well until just after breakfast when he came into the room and he was like, "Hey, I've packed a bag. Kids are ready to go. Be ready in 15 minutes. We're going into town." Well, David and I hyperventilated in a spin of logistic control loss. And from that place, we launched. Take a look at you now, hey? Take a look at you now. I knew this was going to happen. You are irrational, you are unreasonable, and you are totally out of control. You are using this whole stupid tantric polarity experiment rubbish as an excuse to be mean to me, and now you've ruined it, you've shown your true colours, and it's off. I was shaking. And there he stood, my husband, with that same bewildered look on his face, as if he was looking at an unhinged stranger. And finally I got it. I understood why David had moved in. I understood why David thought I needed him. I was scared of being feminine. I was petrified of being someone's wife. I associated femininity with weakness. I associated masculinity with being strong and being in control. David thought that if I wasn't in control, I ran the risk of being humiliated. David thought that if I wasn't in control, my husband might just run the whole show, kind of like men did in the 50s, kind of like my dad did. David thought that if I wasn't in control, I might accidentally end up like a Stepford wife, kind of like my angry teenage self saw my mum. David was there to ensure that I avoided vulnerability at all costs. Okay, David, I get it. You know what, I'm kind of even grateful, but you've gone way too far. My husband is not my dad, and I am not my mum. And my mum is not weak. She's one of the most powerful and joyous women I know. And my dad is not a maniac. He's one of the most loving and generous people I know. And quick fact, their 60-year marriage is none of our business. David, in your tyranny, you are occupying all of the masculine energy in my relationship with my husband. David, in your tyranny, you are denying me the opportunity to experience what it is to be vulnerable, to be open. David, I trust him. I'm safe. You need to let go. You're too expensive to keep. As all these pennies drop in a cascade of clarity, my husband's still standing there. Okay, I said to him, I'm really sorry about that outburst. I'm back in the game and I'm going to be ready in 15 minutes. The rest of the day went really well. Everything we ate was interesting and delicious. Everywhere we went was adventurous and exotic. We made it from A to B to C. We made it all the way to G. No one broke a limb and everything was perfectly salted. And all I had to do was relax and flex my very underdeveloped surrender muscles while clamping down on my tongue often. At the end of the day, as I lay with my husband, nursing all the tiny ulcers that were forming on my bitten and bleeding tongue, I had an unfamiliar sense of calm. Was it the incense? Was it the unscheduled meditation that we'd attended? Or was it a whiff of surrender, a slice of trust, a bedroom devoid of David? I ended up handing over the reins for the full 3 days, and it was nothing short of a playful and enlivening experience. Over those 3 days, David shrunk in direct proportion to a swelling of openness and playfulness and softness within me. Over those 3 days, I learned to relax my grip a little. Over those 3 days, I got a sense of what it might be like if I could turn David on and off. So back in the real world, post-Bali, we still practice the occasional day where I hand the reins over completely. It's a great reset mechanism for us when I'm getting manic and resentfully time poor. It's amazing how much time I really do have when I'm not trying to be and do everything for everyone in an insatiable frenzy. And I'm learning to appreciate that my husband does things differently to me, even though it's really uncomfortable. I fell in love with a guy that has his own particular flair for navigating through chaos and adventure with great focus and drive. I'm learning it's all about teaching David how to be a well-behaved, a submissive, actually a captive house guest. David no longer co-sleeps with us, but he still does try and slip into the alpha role from time to time. But I know what he looks like. I know what it feels like now when he's striding through the house and coursing through my blood. He smells like fear. He tastes like resentful, score-keeping bitterness, and he inspires a dull and beaten look in my eyes. I now know that it's more important for my husband and I to be drawn to each other's differences than it is for everything to be my idea of perfect. More important than it is for the towels to be hung on a line in a particular way. I'm learning to say I'm scared and I'm overwhelmed and I need you, rather than being a passive, aggressive, micromanaging maniac. I've spoken to a few of my friends about my discovery of David, and it turns out that I'm not the only one who has had an uninvited guest. One of my friends is constantly grappling with her Tracy the perfectionist. Another one of my friends has to keep his Roger the rebel on a very tight lead. I'm still the alpha organizer. I just have a knack for it. I just no longer use that knack as a way of leveraging power and control and validity in my relationship anymore. But I do still have the key to the cupboard in which I keep David locked. I let him out from time to time. I mean, David and I are actually a great team when he's kept in check. We have a great flair of getting a whole lot of stuff done in a flurry of activity. And then I just need to remember to lock him back up so that I can experience what it is to be vulnerable, so that I know what it is to be soft, so that I can ensure that my bedroom is always devoid of David. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, this is a song about trust in the face of vulnerability. It's called The River as She Runs. Well, I saw you across the river, a flashpoint in the night, a firefly, a moment of piercing to ignite, the graceful, the erratic, a promise and a taunt, a dare and a whisper to that which we are drawn, to that which we are drawn, to that which we are drawn. Well, I saw you and I knew you forever and at once in the heartbeat of that moment. Cross the river as she runs, and I call to you to tell you that you shouldn't try to cross, 'cause the river, she was raging, and in the rage my voice was lost, my voice was lost, my voice was lost. So we lay beside that river on the banks of either side, but the river rose and snatched us and she took us for a ride. Yes, she held us for a moment in her swirling muddy throes, and she thrust us toward each other just to force us to let go. She forced us to let go. She forced us to let go. But in the moment that I touched you, in the moment you were mine, your touch, it spoke in volumes. Your touch spoke the sublime. And when she laid me out upon her banks, and as I coughed a mess from out my lungs, I watched her carry you on further down, down that river as she runs, down that river as she runs, down that river as she runs, down that river as she runs. And so now I hold the promise of that touch that we once felt. Now I hold the promise of the river where I knelt as I watched her take you further to a calm and clear place. And for all the days that I draw breath, never will I forget your grace. I won't forget your grace, your shining grace.